Hello, hello, and welcome back to yet another NFL video. Today, I am going to make my predictions, just like I did last year, for my Rookie of the Year race, if you will. Who won the Rookie of the Year last year? I think it was Jaden Daniels. Did I? I think I had Caleb Williams winning it, so I was wrong last year. And I gravely overestimated last year certain positions. So we're gonna get into it this year. We're going to look at the player. By the way, only got like a dozen, maybe not. I think I only got like 10 players. I'm not going to do the defensive rookie of the year because it's incredibly difficult to predict even how much playing time some of these high draft picks are going to get in their certain positions. So I'm not going to do defensive rookies. I'm going to look at the offensive rookies, the top 10 who I think have the best chance to win rookie of the year, have the most opportunity. And yeah, let's get into it. No idea what just popped up right here. Got a virus or something. All right, second, let's get right into it. All right, so starting off with Cam Ward. First pick, obviously, number one quarterback. And I do believe that even though Jackson Dart went in the first round, Tyler Tyler Shuck on the Saints, I gotta stop disrespecting Tyler Shuck. It still remains funny to me. I do believe that Cam Ward is the only person who has or the only quarterback rather, who has a realistic opportunity to win Rookie of the Year. I just think based off his situation and his opportunity, it makes the most sense. So let's look at the offense that Cam Ward is surrounded by. Now, I mentioned it before, I'll say it again. I like what the Titans did this offseason in terms of getting a solidified offensive line. I'm not sure if they're going to pay or going to play rather J.C. Latham at right tackle and Dan Moore at left tackle. Dan Moore certainly, I think, is the worst player on this line, even though they gave him like $100 million. He gave up like 12 sacks last year. So I guess maybe it's going to be an addition, but he might get Cam Ward hit a lot. But at least they know for sure who their five stars are going to be, and it's five guys who have started before in the league. It's comfortable to know for sure who your starting five offensive linemen are going to be. Now their wide receiver room, it was looking a little shaky, right? But underrated move of picking up Tyler Lockett. I think that Tyler Lockett addition has gone way under the radar, and I think it's going to pay big dividends for making Cam Ward look good on Sundays. I think he's going to find a very reliable target in Tyler Lockett. Now, Calvin Ridley, still probably one of, if not the worst, wide receiver ones in football, but he puts up 1,000 yards consistently. I expect more of the same from him. And they drafted several guys, tight end, two receivers, and let's not forget they also brought on Xavier Restrepo, Cam Ward's college teammate. While I'm not sure exactly how much of a role he'll play at the NFL, especially as a rookie, I do think he and Cam Ward will make each other better in training camp and make their process of learning the NFL a little bit easier on each other. Now, the run game, Tony Pollard, Tajay Spears, underrated duo. I would like to see them incorporate Spears a little bit more. Tony Pollard rather. I believe he had about 1,300 yards from scrimmage last year, if I'm not mistaken. Really underrated. So definitely not a scary or a top whatever running back duo, but I think they could be really good if used properly. So overall, not a bad offense. You have several guys: Calvin Ridley, Tyler Lockett. Didn't mention Chico Conquo, but he's not a bad tight end. The run game, I think if Cam Ward, it's really up to the Cam Ward because I don't see a single area here and say, "Yikes, that's a bad group right there." I think if Cam Ward is ready to make that adjustment, I think he'll have a very successful rookie season. And this is going to be my projected stat line. I'm going to project roughly what I think everybody is going to look like as a rookie. I don't think the Titans are going to win a whole lot of games. I think 6-11 is their record. But Cam Ward, I see about 4,300 yards from scrimmage, over 30 total touchdowns. I do think he'll struggle with the turnover bug. I think, he plays a little bit too much hero ball that might get him in some trouble. But overall, I think he'll be a really good rookie quarterback, better than Caleb Williams was last year, not as good as CJ Stroud. And depending on what the rest of the class does, I think he'll have his name in the hat, if you will, by the end of the year for rookie of the year. So I think Cam Ward, I think he'll be successful in Tennessee. Moving on to the running backs now. Ashton Jeanty, sixth overall pick. I'll go ahead and say it now. Jeanty is my pick for rookie of the year. Ashton Jeanty, I would not be shocked. I would not. This might sound crazy. I would not be shocked if Ashton Jeanty has 2,000 yards from scrimmage as a rookie. Saquon Barkley did it. I just don't think, like, for a team like the Raiders, right, who had the worst running back room in football last year, like, it is not crazy to me for them to just run Jeanty into the ground. Like, it's just that's what they need. They need Jeanty to be an all pro caliber player if they want to make the playoffs, right? Because the talent around him is just not on that same level. Now, I do think they'll have a massively, I mean, the Raiders improved at quarterback almost more than anybody else in football this offseason. Their wide receiver room, you see all the additions they made there. Three via the draft. I think Jacoby Myers rather, and Brock Bowers is a duo who you can expect, or you should expect, over 2,000 yards from combined. Um, the depth, the role players on the Raiders receiving room is not necessarily comparable to other teams. Like you got Trey Tucker as your wide receiver too. You need big things rather out of Michael Mayer, Jack Besh, guys like that, Dante Thornton. We don't really know in terms of that aspect, but I think that benefits Jeanty because they're going to be relying on him more because they have a lot of unknowns in this pass game. So let's take a look at what I think. I tried to be fairly conservative here. I don't think they're going to use him a whole lot as a pass catcher, even though he showed the ability to do that before at the college level. I think he's primarily going to be used as a running back out of the backfield. And yeah, close, not exactly 300 touches, but close to 300 touches, around 1,600 yards from scrimmage. And I think 15 total touchdowns is not out of the realm of possibility. So, like I said, my pick for rookie of the year is Ashton Jeanty. Not a hot take whatsoever, but I mean it's just the obvious selection. Jeanty to the Raiders. It was the obvious pick for a long time, and I do believe he will be incredibly successful. The great backs, all of the great running backs, they showed it early on. Like running back is the easiest position I feel like to transition day one college to NFL because it's entirely based on your athleticism and the wear and tear only builds over time. So Ashton Jeanty, I think, is at the healthiest point of his life, probably the most athletic freak that he'll ever be, and I think it's going to show up early in his football career. Moving on, Quinshad Judkins, third running back taken to the Cleveland Browns. Now, unlike some of these other teams, the Browns are a complete mess in terms of everything else. Well, really just everything, actually. Quinshad Judkins is going to be RB1. For some reason, they drafted another running back in the fourth round after him. But I do think Judkins is going to get the primary amount of snaps or reps, if you will. And I think between him and Jerry Jeudy, they will be the real load bearers, if you will, of this offense. So let's take a look at what I think from him. I think he does have a better chance of being that third down guy. I think he has a kind of an untapped potential as a receiver, if you will. So I don't think he's going to get close to the 300 type touches, but I do think if he wins that starting job early, would not shock me if he breaks the 1,000 yard mark, just in terms of rushing yards as well as getting some through the air as well. So around 1,300 yards from scrimmage and 13 touchdowns. That's a really good season. Like that's a really, really good season for a rookie. I just think Judkins, I've had my eye on him for a while. I just expect him to be a guy who makes that transition early on. And on a team like the Browns, he could absolutely just take over as their best offensive player, like halfway through the season. Like no disrespect to Jerry Jeudy or Joke or anybody like that, but a good running back on a team like the Browns gets the majority of play calls and touches and things like that. So I think Judkins has a good opportunity to become that as a rookie. Next up, teammate of Quinshad Judkins, only 2 picks later, Travion Henderson. He goes to the Patriots. And I mentioned it before, I'll say it again. I really like what the Patriots are doing. They didn't make a whole lot of it. Well, they made a few additions to the receiver room. Stephon Diggs, Mac Hollins, drafting Kyle Williams. I mean, the offensive line, obviously, you bring in Garrett Bradbury and you switch out both of your tackles with what should be instant upgrades. I like what the Patriots are doing. Obviously, they improved the defense significantly. But if you look at the running back room, Ramondre Stevenson has struggled with some major fumbling issues early on, and you juxtapose him to a guy like Travion Henderson, who does not fumble the ball. It would not shock me at all if Henderson, I think no matter what, he's going to be your guy on third because Travion, he has no flaws in his game. He is the perfect running back. He pass blocks exceptionally well. He can catch out the backfield. He's explosive. He can just be your guy who runs between the tackles on first and second down if you need him to. He does everything. So it would not shock me at all if he just wins the job outright from a guy like Ramondre Stevenson, who has the ability, but he does not protect the ball enough, right? So if Henderson wins that job week one or just or like the first month of the season, I think he could have a year something like this. Not a whole lot of runs on the ground. I think he'll be utilized a little bit more through the pass game. So I think he's a guy similar to Alvin Kamara who may get a good majority of his yardage through the air. So I do think he could break that 1,300 yard mark as a rookie. Certainly do his damage in multiple ways. So keep an eye on him. I mean, Henderson. Everybody that talks about Henderson, they don't just say he's good. They say, "Wow, this kid's special." So I'm going to take their word for it. Henderson, big year on the Patriots, loading. Next up, R.J. Harvey, the fifth running back selected out of UCF, going to the Broncos. And similar to the Raiders, the Broncos, they had three running backs in there last year. None of them were really all that special. So I could see RJ Harvey really being a bell cow in this offense. They have the passing game pretty much figured out. Bo Nix had a great rookie season. They upgraded at tight end. You like their group of receivers that they have returning. I think RJ Harvey could unlock something and take this offense to the next level. And I think Sean Payton drafted him specifically for that reason. And it would not, I think RJ Harvey, not a lot of people are talking about him right now at this time of the year, but I think he's poised for a monster rookie season, especially doing the most of his damage on the ground. 1,300 rushing yards. That's a really big number for a rookie. But if you look at his college tape, he breaks off explosive runs like it's nothing. And I think he will bring that to the NFL level. So over 1,600 yards, 13 touchdowns. It could be a race between him and Ashton Jeanty in the same division. They'll play each other a couple of times next season. I'm interested to see who gets the edge in those matchups. I think it might be RJ Harvey just because the Broncos have a much better defense than the Raiders do. So that'll be fun to watch. That'll be a matchup that I'm paying close attention to next season. Next, we got Cam Skattebo, absolute legend out of Arizona State. He fell a little bit farther than I was expecting. I thought he definitely would be a late second, early third round guy, but Giants pick him up at the top of the fourth round. And you look at their running back situation, and you might say, wait a minute, Tyrone Tracy, he had 1,000 yards last season from scrimmage as a rookie. Devin Singletary, he was a consistent 1,000 yard type guy for his first 4 or 5 seasons in a row. Did not do a whole lot last year on the Giants. I expect Skattebo to pretty much overtake Singletary immediately. They might look to trade Singletary. That might be a valuable idea for them, especially if somebody else suffers a running back injury. So I think it's going to be between Skattebo and Tyrone Tracy. I like Tracy a little bit more as a third down type guy. So I think you put in Skattebo short line, goal line situations, even just some set the tone runs on first, second down, early in the game, late in the game. I like Skattebo's potential in this Giants offense. So this is what I think is going to potentially happen. I don't see him getting as much action as some of these other rookies, but I see Skattebo very similar as a guy like Bucky Irving, third, fourth round pick, already had an established 1,000 yard rookie from last season, Rashad White and Tyrone Tracy. And I think Skattebo is going to come in and just as the season goes on, I think you'll see his amount of reps and his amount of touches go up and up and up because he's a guy where I feel like once you start giving him the ball, you got to keep feeding the beast, right? So keep an eye on Skattebo. I know I will. One of my favorite players coming into the draft. He's just a monster, right? So very interested to see how much attention the Giants give him as a rookie. Next up, we got Travis Hunter, the first group of receivers here coming up. So, like I said earlier, during the draft process, I believe the Jaguars will use Hunter primarily as a receiver. He'll still moonlight at DB, but let's keep in mind here, Brian Thomas is the clear number one in Jacksonville. I believe when Trevor comes back, he will be looking primarily to Brian Thomas and then everybody else pretty much. Now, Travis, I do think, is the clear number two in this offense. I have him listed in the slot right here on our lads. I don't know if I agree with that, but certainly is Travis is a guy who can move around, really use him everywhere. So I think his stat line look a little bit like this. You might think, well, less than 900 yards, 6 touchdowns. That wouldn't be all that impressive for Travis, but I do believe he is going to play a significant role on defense as well. So as a rookie number 2 receiver, these are really good numbers. I mean, it's better numbers than the guy like Rome Odunze had last year, for example. Quentin Johnston in his second year last year didn't have these type of numbers. So I think Travis, his stats as a rookie won't blow anybody away, but I do believe he's a guy who's going to continue to build and build into his career. But I decided to put him on here because he is a number two receiver, and I do believe he could be possibly. If you look at the rest of this offense, it's not a whole lot of difference makers besides Travis and Brian Thomas. They got rid of Evan Ingram at the tight end position. They got rid of Christian Kirk and Gabe Davis. There's a vacuum in terms of targets at as a pass catcher, and I expect Travis to kind of step in there and absorb a lot of that gap that was created this offseason. Moving on, Tedaro McMillan, the first pure receiver drafted number 8 overall to Carolina. This was a landing spot, a match made in heaven, if you will. I've been slamming my fist on the table, hoping the Panthers will draft McMillan for months now. They finally did. I just think it's the best decision because I think he comes in immediately, and I think he's your wide receiver one. Now, listen, Adam Thielen, he's done a lot the last 2 years. Even in his older age, he has shown that veteran presence. The reason that he made it into the league as a smaller white receiver in the first place, he is still putting up good tape in Carolina. Leggett, he had a good, not great. Well, first of all, you got to consider the situation. Carolina, as an entire franchise, is struggling. So I think in the midst of that, Leggett showed a lot of flashes as a rookie, and I think he could have a really good sophomore season. But I do think McMillan coming in with his body type and what he provides for you, it's something that the Panthers have been missing. And I think if Bryce Young continues on the trajectory that he showed the last month of last season, I'm really excited to see exactly how McMillan fits as a rookie into this in this offense rather. Now, I do think the strength of this team is their running back room, and I think that they should lean into that a little bit more, kind of take some pressure off of Bryce, if you will. But I think McMillan as a rookie could have this type of a season, close to 900 yards. I do think he'll be a really big red zone threat. That's where the Panthers have to get better, and I think they're going to utilize McMillan's frame when they get down into the red zone. So, yeah, I'm excited to see what McMillan does. Maybe the best rookie receiver, but that is to be determined. Last receiver up is Matthew Golden, fourth receiver taken to the Packers. And here's a guy where you would think simply due to the amount of competition, and not even at the wide receiver position, I'm talking Tucker Kraft, Jaden Reed, Romeo Dobbs, or Dontavian Wicks. He's going to have to compete with a lot of guys, but I don't think there's an established number one. So it would not shock me if when Matthew Golden gets in there, he kind of takes over and he becomes the de facto number one receiver there. And listen, they became a run first team last year with the addition of Josh Jacobs. I expect that to remain their identity, but if they decide to let it loose, they absolutely have the personnel, both at quarterback and a number of great pass catchers now to really shred some teams through the air. So as a rookie, I expect him to get involved not just through the air, but also with some reverse type plays, jet motions and different things out of the backfield. I think they could get creative with a guy like Matthew Golden. And I do think just in terms of yards, that Golden could have the most of any rookie receiver. I expect the Packers to be an explosive offense and Matthew Golden being a big part of that. Finally, we got Tyler Warren here, the only tight end who I decided to include on a list like this. Not necessarily a high volume passing offense in Indianapolis. And on top of that, you got a number of receivers, Alec Pierce, Michael Pittman, Josh Downs, A.D. Mitchell, a number of guys taking touches away from you, hypothetically, and also a guy in Anthony Richardson who has not been known for pushing the ball down the field in his career so far. So just in terms of the situation, I don't think Tyler Warren's going to have a Brock Bowers type rookie season, but I do think in his niche, he could be incredibly successful, especially in the red zone. I think he could be a bit of a touchdown machine when they get down low there. And I decided to include Tyler Warren because he's such a good player. And I do think as a tight end, he could unlock something in the Colts offense they have not had since Anthony Richardson has been there. So that is going to be it for this video. Please leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you are new. I will be back very shortly with the next video. So I will see y'all when I see y'all. Peace.